So Mr. Kelvin, I already sent the code to the chat. So you can just check it out. All right, so moving on now. The next thing that I'll be talking about is CSS box model. Now, CSS box model is very, very important. So please try as much as possible to listen to this aspect of CSS. So when we talk about box model, what do we mean by that? So let me try and bring up. Okay, I've not. CSS box model is actually supposed to be for next week, but we have time. I'm going to do it today. So just a moment, please. All right. So when we talk about CSS box model, what exactly do we mean by CSS box? So now let's just take a little bit of definition. And what is CSS box model? This is simply a box that allows borders around an element and allows us to create spaces inside of it. Please do not put this definition in your mind. I want you to understand it. I don't want you to like cram definition. Now, let us take this wall as an example. So now, so those online, I'm going to explain this again with a more practical example, but let's take this one as an example. Look at this hello world text. I'll be the camera. Look at this hello world text that is here. Now, you should know something that, first of all, you have a content, which is what hello world, right? Then you have spaces inside that's around this particular box, the hello world, right? And then you have spaces outside of it. That's box model. So box model is talking about having elements separating themselves from other elements. I'm going to explain it again. Now, I can say that in this particular class here, you have certain elements that are space, but the elements in this class are separated from the one in the other class, right? That means this class is one section, that other class is another section. Just what you're doing in your team. Now, box model is not talking about, okay, in each section, you have three important things. In each section, you have three important things. The first is what spaces around your content. Oh, sorry, the first was the content, which is your elements. The second is what the spaces around your elements. Then the third is what the spaces outside those elements. You understand it now? Now, why do you have to know these things? You have to know these things because elements will always have spacing. You will always want to separate certain divisions or certain sections from other sections. So let me give us an example of what I'm trying to say. So now, if you come to this website here, okay, let's use this website that is here. I'll use this one instead. Now, look at this particular website. This section here, right, is different from the next section I can come here. And as you can see, there is a space between them. You understand it now? Separating one section from another section. That's box model. That's understanding what box model is. So box model is saying that what you need to have certain sections for different elements, right? So that they don't clash, so that you can easily what separate them and give them the necessary CSS editing I need to give to them. And one thing about box model is that you need to understand two things. You need to understand three things. First is what is the margin. Margin is the space around your element. So this is one box model. So margin is the space around your content. Now the content is the main element, while padding is not the space around that's inside that particular content. Let me give us a practical example of what I'm going to say. So let's say we have a div tag, right? So I'm going to clear this place also. It's not, I don't want us to use this. So let's clear it. Now, let's say you have a div tag, right? Div tag. And in this div tag, you have an H1 that says hello world. You understand? Now, what I am trying to tell you now is that when we're now talking about CSS box model, we're talking about, first of all, the content, right? Now, in one talk about box, not CSS, but box model, first of all, you have the content, which is your element. Secondly, you have the spaces around this particular element, right? Thirdly, you have a border, an invisible border, which will put very soon around this particular element. And there's now a space outside this element. I'll give you an example. So right now, if I come to my CSS and I say, so let's give my div tag. Let's give this a border. Let's give it a border of pixel. Let's give it a solid color and let's give it a solid style and a black color. So now, good. This is an example of what I can say. Now, when we say box model, first of all, you have your hello world, your content. Second of all, you have your spaces around your hello world. You have your padding. Thirdly, you have spaces outside this box. That's your margin. Now you need to put these things in mind. Because when we're talking about CSS box model, it helps you differentiate sections from clear. Okay. All right. So we can move on. Now that is what your box model does for you. Now, as I've said, to those online, do we understand this? If it is clear, please give me a thumbs up. If it is not, please let me know in the chat. So I will know if I can move on or we'll have to explain it again. Mr. Vincent, Mr. Shego, okay. I don't think it's clear. Mr. Shego is typing. Okay, I'll explain one more time so we understand it. So, let me clear this first of all, and let me explain it again. One thing that I need you to understand about box model is that it helps you in separating sections, separating divs. You understand? So that you can have separate sections. You can know, okay, where to style and where not to style. You understand it now? And I want you to understand, I want you to take note of three things in your box model. First is your what? Is your padding. Second is your what? Your margin. And the third is going to be your what? Your border. Right? These three things are very important. Even though sometimes your borders are always invisible, but they exist. Now, what am I saying? I have a div and I said H1 hello world, right? Now let's say I want to style this div. Let's give this div, right? And let me give it a border of let's give it 2 pixels. Let's give it a solid style and let's give it black color. Black, good. Now I want you to check something out. First of all, what your box model is this, is what you're saying. You have your content, right? And around this particular content, you have spaces. That's inside of the box. So now, outside of the box again, you also have what? Spaces. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that the space outside of this box here is known as your what? Your margin. The spaces inside of it is known as your what? As your padding. While your content is just your what? Your content. So if you are trying to what? Create more space within an element, what do you use? Padding. If you're trying to create more space outside of an element, what do you use? Margin. So now if I go ahead and I say padding of 2 rem. So if I say padding of, let me use pixels for now. Padding of 20 pixels, what are we going to have? We are going to have more space inside of the box. Can you see it now? You have more space inside of the box. Then if I go ahead and I say margin of 20 pixels, check what is going to happen. You are now going to have more spaces outside of it. Did you notice the space outside? Let me show you. You know what? Let me reduce. Good. Now let us remove the margin and let's see what we have. Now removing the margin, can you see it now? Adding the margin, you have more space. That is what margin and padding will do for you. So again, as I said, margin, space outside, space outside the element, right, or a box, while the padding is what? The space inside of this element. Do you get it now? This is exactly what your padding and margin will do for you. Then the border is probably a line that is, the border is basically, so let's give an example. You have the Ghana border and the Nigerian border. What is that border? The border is saying, okay, once you're in Nigeria and you cross into Ghana, what have you done? You've crossed the border. You understand it now? That is what border is. Border is saying, okay, it is trying to separate 2 sections, one particular section from another existing section. What am I saying? So I can go ahead and I can say section. I'm going to duplicate this one more time. So note what's going to happen. Now, it's trying to tell you that this section that is here is different from this section that is here. Do you get it? So now, what has just happened now is that what? I have created a border. This border is one separating this one from this place. Now, sometimes these borders are not visible, but they exist. So what am I saying? If I remove this one now from here, there is a border here, but you cannot see it because I did not add the border. Automatically, and all of these elements are what? Separated from each other. They are not the same element because they are different sections. You understand? But I cannot decide to add this border here just to like make it visible, or maybe if it suits my design. But if it doesn't suit my design, I remove it. But it does not mean that it's not present. It's present. Is it clear to you now? That's what your borders are. So, and you can use your border to do anything. Like I said, you can learn something for a reason and use it to manipulate another thing. CSS, HTML, and JavaScript are all manipulation tools. You just use it to what? Manipulate anything to get what you want. Do you get it now? That's what these things are. I hope you understand this. Is it clear to us? Is it clear to us now? Do you understand padding, margin, Mr. Shego? Do you understand it? Okay. So now we can move on to explaining more on CSS box model. Now let us give another example on your box model. I'm going to give a much more defined example. This. So let's use our links as an example. So I'm going to be using modes of semantic tag in this place. So now let's say we have our nav tag. I want to have about 4 links or 5 links. So I'm going to say, I'm going to write your A tag and just hash and duplicate it 4 more times. Now this place, I'm going to name it home. Yeah, I'm going to name it about. Yeah, I'm going to name it, okay, let's just give it services for studio contact. Now, this is going to be our, yeah, so our links. Now, one thing that I can do is that in my star.css, I can just have my A tag. First thing, I want to remove the text decoration. So let's say we're going to remove text decoration. I'm going to name it none because to remove the underline that is here. Remember what text decoration does. Then the next thing is that we're going to have it now, right? And on this now, we're going to have, okay, I don't want to use something that we've not done before. Let's just use border, right? Let's create a border. Now, this border takes in 3 things. Explain how to use your border now. It takes in 3 things. The first is how the measurement of that particular border. Do you want it to be very thick or do you want it to be very thin? That is basically what that border, that first element is talking about. The second element is what kind of line do you want? Do you want a solid line? Do you want a dotted line? Do you want a dashed line? Depending on what you want. So in this case, what do I want? I want a solid line to be very thick. Or we can have a dotted line. So let me show you. If I say 2 pixels, remember when I talked about your measurements, right? You have pixels. So if I want it to be very thick, it has to increase, but I don't want it to be very thin. Just have a line, a visible line. So 2 pixels is enough. Now I cannot say dotted line. If I give it a dotted line and I say a black color, what kind of color should this thing be? Black. Now as you can see how dotted the lines are. If I change the color here to yellow now, what are you going to have? A yellow line. Do you get it now? That is what that last part. So the 3 things it takes is what? How thick that particular line is going to be, what kind of line it is going to be. Is it going to be a solid line or is it going to be like maybe a dotted line? Then, okay, come here, let me. Don't worry, I've done it. Okay, so then the next thing is what is the measurement. 2 pixels, 4 pixels, 5 pixels, 10 pixels. If I give you 20 pixels now, see how big these lines are going to be. See how big it is. So 2 pixels is enough, or even 1 pixel is enough. Although 1 pixel will not show sometimes. I used to use 2 pixels is enough. But I'm not going to use dotted. I'm going to use a solid line to make sure that what the lines are all round. I'm going to give it a black color to also show it. Now, this is how to create your border. I'll just clear to everybody. Okay, please share it. I can see it now. Let me see your CSS first. Please let me see your HTML. Okay, so the problem now is you've not linked your HTML to your CSS. Have you seen it? Or you've not linked your CSS to your HTML rather. Sorry? The head. With your link tag. No. On the head with your link tag. Yes. Good. So you linked it like that. So now save it up and check your output. All right. So let me share my screen now. So now that is basically how to work with your order. So first things first is your. Can you see my screen now? Okay. So you should have a border. Then your border takes in three major things. First is the measurement of the line. Second is the kind of line. Is it going to be solid? Okay, you have a question again. Okay. How about in a box as well? Box model. Yeah. Now, one thing about boxing is it's not exactly a box. It's just saying you are putting certain things in sections. Do you understand it now? So we're not exactly putting them in box, just putting them in sections. They are already in the same section right now. You understand that in your own words, they're already in the same box. You understand it now? So it's not about putting them in box because most of the times you put them in box, it's not gonna look fine. You understand it now? So they're just in similar in the same section. That's what we are saying. Do you understand it now? So for you to create your border, I said you need to take in three things. First is how big or how small the line is going to be. What kind of line is going to it's going to be rather. Is it going to be a solid line or a dotted line? Then the color of the line. Then the next thing that you need to also worry about is going to be the padding. How do you use your padding? I'm going to talk about padding now. Now I said padding is basically the what? What's padding again? Line inside the box, right? So that's the space inside the box. So if I say padding of not passing, padding of let's give it one rem, right? Now you can see the space inside of it. Now, one thing that's going to confuse you is that if you look at the left here, let's look at the top, look at the bottom. Can you see that they are equal amount of spaces? Eh? Now look at the left, look at the right. Why is the right bigger than the left? You want to answer the question? Okay. Sorry? Yeah, that's what I explained already before. I said you can use any one that you want to use. One rem is equal to 16 pixels. In this case, like I just say 16 pixels instead of one rem. You understand? Just like a normal measurement. Now, I was asking a question, and I want somebody to answer me. So we have space at the top here, other spaces, they are equal. We check it. The one at the top and the one at the bottom, they are equal. But if you check the one at the left and the one at the right, they are not equal. Why is the right bigger or longer than the one at the left? Who wants to try? Talked about it before, that's why I'm asking. Okay, please go ahead. Like, no, they are even aligned right now. But there is a major reason. We've talked about it before. No, we didn't talk about it in this class. So let me use my mouse. So check this place and check this place. They are equal, right? But check here and check here. This place is longer than this place. Why? You're almost there, but that's not. Who wants to try? You want to try? That too. But if I use another type of, if I say this, you get it. I don't want to give us the expo. No, it has nothing to do with CSS. Yes. No, that's you. The thing is that what you are saying is going to lead to the answer, but that's not it. It has nothing to do with CSS. It is purely HTML. I explained this in HTML and HTML class. I'm giving you all the expo that you need. Who wants to try online? Who wants to try? Okay. So I explained this. Mr. John, do you want to try? Who wants to try? Class captain, try now. Simple. Block element. Now, why did you say block element? I need to be sure you didn't guess. Because block element, naturally, they normally have this default state. So, I think you were talking about line or left, because I on the left. Just that's what I said. What you were saying was going to lead to what the block element stuff. Now, when we talk about block elements, right? We are saying those elements are going to take up every available space on that line. So now, when I use block element, a nav tag is a block element. A div tag is a block element, right? Because naturally it takes up every available space on the line. So when we now use that nav tag, so check your HTML. So see, I use the nav tag to encompass my A tags. So when we use the nav tag automatically takes up every space on that line. So it's going to deceive us that you have more space here, but that's not true. You don't have any space here. You still have the same amount of space in this space as this space. But because it is a block element, it is going to extend the border to the left, from the left to the right. You understand it now? That is one thing about block and inline. You know, I explained that block takes up every available space on the line, while inline only focuses on a particular amount of space necessary for it to survive. So if I go ahead and change that particular this thing to let's change it to like span tag. So let's change this to like a span tag, even though it's not advisable to do something like this. So if I change the span tag now, okay, it's not going to work. Comment. Where's my CSS? So now let's say span tag. Now, as you can see, so I might have to do one just a moment. So margin, let's give it a margin top of like 3 rem, just for me to show you what I'm trying to show you. That's great. 10 rem. Okay. So good. So it should work now. So do not worry about what I just did. Now, if you look at a span tag now that is not that is not a block element, as you can see, the amount of space on the left now is now equal to the amount of space on the right. Right? That is what, sorry, 1 minute. That is what your block element is going to do for you. Your block element is going to deceive you, making you think that, okay, this particular tag is, you don't have the same amount of space on the right and the left, but you do. But just because it takes up every available space on that line, you get confused, and that's why most of the times I don't use block elements to style certain things. If I want to use it, I will do a lot of due diligence before using it. But I hope everybody understands why we use block elements. Is it clear? Do we understand our padding? Do you understand padding? Before we move on. Is it clear? You have a question?
Let's say use that
items to the middle. So you're talking about using align items to move this one like this to the middle. Now you can only use align. Text align rather. You can only use text align to move elements from the left to the middle or to the right if the element you're moving is a text. But in this case, your nav tag is not a text, it is a section. You understand it now? So for you to be able to move it, you have to understand CSS position and CSS display, which we'll get to in We'll get to very soon. Maybe by next week, Monday or Tuesday, we'll get to CSS position. Don't worry, it's not hard. It's very easy. Very, very easy. So CSS position or CSS display, get to that. I'll be able to do this. So if you've noticed, this one was right at the top here before. I had to do something to move it down. That's a CSS position. I moved the position from the top down. So that is basically what we can do with moving elements about. But we'll explain that with CSS display. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want us to talk about, so I'm going to remove this. We do not need this position. Then I'm going to change this back to now. Okay, I think I'll leave it. I'll leave it. So now, sorry, I'll change it. So let's remove it. I'll change it back to now. And change this back to now. Okay. Now moving on, right? There is one more thing that I want us to know. And it's the fact that if you notice that when I said padding of one rem, what happened? What did you notice? When I said padding of one rem, what did you notice? Huh? Sorry, just a moment. Max. So now when I said padding of one rem, what happened? Now, if you notice, there is, just like she said, there is one space around the content that's inside of this box. You have equal, and one thing I need to know is that you have equal amount of spaces here and here and here and here. That means this, from this position to this place is what? One rem. This position to this place is how many rem? One rem. This position to this place is what? One rem. Similarly, for the left, one rem. That means every single position around that element is going to have what? A one rem gap from the border. But what if you want to have more space on the left, right? Let's say you want to have 5 rem on the left. You want to have just 2 rem on the right. You want to have 10 rem on the top and just like probably 1 rem on the bottom. How do you do it? So that gives you like a much more, that gives you more control on your padding, how to increase the spaces at the top, at the left, at the right, and at the bottom. How do you do that? All you have to do is come to your group. So instead of saying padding of one rem, I can say padding top, right? Of what? One rem. What will this do? Only the top is going to be affected. So here now, only the top has the padding. Do you notice it? That's basically what your padding top is going to do. So I can also say padding right of 3 rem. Now, if you notice, your right is going to have more padding. As you can see, it has more space. Now, if I go ahead and I say padding left, so let's give it a padding left of 5 rem. So check it out now. So if you check it out now, what do you have? More padding on the left. It is not equal to what you have before. Do you get it now? And we can have, then we can also have what? Padding bottom, which is that's the under the bottom part. So you can have this one to be like, let's give it 10 rem. So you're going to see how large it's going to be now. So okay, I was looking at it that something isn't right. Of 10 rem, right? Okay, good. Now, if you check it out now, so can you see it now? You have a lot of space at the bottom. Now, that is what your padding does for you. So now, as you can see, it is not just restricted to the same amount of spaces. You can have a lot of, spaces around it as you deem it. You understand? That's what your padding top, padding bottom, padding left, and padding right will do for you. Is it clear to us? Is it clear, Mr. John? Okay. Up to an extent, have you? All right. So that is what your padding is all about. Now, I'm going to explain two more things on that padding. I'm going to talk about margin. And again, just like I used to do, I will leave you to figure out some things. It's not a classwork. Just figure out certain things in mind. So now, um, one thing that you can also know is that one thing you can also get from this is you don't always have to have margin top, margin left, margin right, margin bottom. I feel like that's tautology. Because something tautology, like you're just doing something you could have just done on a straight line multiple times. I can do this, I can say padding, right? And then I can have all of these things on one line. Now, I want you to remember this clockwise movement. So if your clock is moving, right, it starts from the top, right? Then moves to the right, then moves to the bottom, then moves to the left. Do you get it now? Then back to the top. Now that is how you can do this. Now you start from the top, right, bottom, and left. So now if I want to say padding top, our padding top here is what? 1 rem, right? You can say 1 rem. Now let me just so you can see what I'm trying to say. 1 rem, right? What is our padding right? 3 rem, right? You have 3 rem. What's our padding bottom? 10 rem. You have the 10 rem. And what's our padding left? 5 rem. So now that is how you are going to always write certain things like this. So you have padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and what? Padding left. So you can just write everything like this on one list. Now I'm just going to write it out for us so you can see this. So the format is what? Top, right, bottom, and what? Left. Do you understand it now? So instead of just writing all of those things out, just go ahead and do the same thing. So if you check it out now, you still have the same styling. So top, right, bottom, and left. There's one more thing I also explain. What if you're not really interested in, maybe let's say the left and the right are equal, the top and bottom are equal, but let me give an example. So let's say your top and bottom is 10 rem, your left and right is 5 rem. Do you go ahead and start saying uh, 10 rem, 10 rem, right, and 5 rem? You understand what I'm trying to say? So this is top, right? This is right, this is bottom, and this is what? Left. So instead of doing this, I can just go ahead and say 10 rem and 5 rem. So automatically, your code is going to see the top, the first one as what? Top and bottom, and then the second one as what? Left and right. What am I saying? I can just go ahead and say padding, right? And I can say 10 rem and what? 5 rem. So like this 10 rem is going to be for what? Top and bottom. This one is going to be for what? Left and right. So these are just shortcuts you can use in what getting. And again, if this is not convenient for you, please go ahead and use your long way, your long method. It depends on what you want. So I hope everybody understands this. Is it clear? Any question? I like questions. Please ask questions so that I know everybody's following. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can use pixels. Like I said, it depends on what you like. I like to use REM a lot because it saves time instead of calculating. I don't like seeing big numbers on my code. I'll not start seeing 100 pixels. Why? No. When I can just use 20 REM or 10 REM or 5 REM. So that's why I use REM. You can use pixels depending on what you want. Mr. Pilos, please go ahead. I might not be able to hear you. Just go ahead and like type your question.
Okay, let me just type then.
Mr. Shegun, do you understand it? Mr. Kelvin, is it clear to you, please? Mr. Kelvin and Mr. Vincent. Okay. All right. So let's get Mr. House's question home.